Imagine you're standing at a store checkout. You swipe your card to buy a new bike. You see the approved message. The receipt prints out, and you walk away with your wheels. You probably think you just spent money that was sitting in your bank account, right? And you probably think the store now has that money sitting in their account. Most people believe that money is like water, it flows from one bucket to another. But what if I told you that the money you just spent didn't actually exist until the second you swiped that card? What if I told you that your local bank, the one on the corner with the nice fountain and the free lollipops, is actually a high-speed money printing factory? We've all been told the same story since we were kids. You work a job, you get paid in cash, you take that cash to the bank, and the bank puts it in a giant heavy vault to keep it safe. Then when a neighbor needs a loan to buy a house, the bank goes into that vault, takes some of your money and lends it to them. It sounds logical, it sounds fair, but it is a complete and total lie. Here is the first twist. Banks do not lend out the money that people deposit. In fact, if you go to the bank and ask to see your money, they don't have it. If every single person went to their bank tomorrow morning and asked for their cash back, the entire global economy would vanish in about 11 minutes. That's because banks don't work like vaults. They work like magic ledgers. When you walk into a bank and ask for a $10,000 loan for a car, the banker doesn't check to see if they have $10,000 in the back. They simply sit down at a computer, type your name, Edawami, and type the number 10,000 next to it. In that exact moment, 10,000 brand new dollars are born. They didn't come from a printing press at the government. They were created by a few keystrokes at a desk. To understand how this magic trick stays legal, we have to look at a rule called Fractional Reserve Banking. It sounds like a boring math term, but it's actually the secret code that runs the world. Imagine our school playground has a bicycle bank. I am the banker. You come to me and deposit one shiny blue bicycle. Now, according to the fractional rule, I only have to keep a tiny piece of that bicycle in the shed, let's say, just the kickstand. The rest of the bike? I am allowed to lend it out to 10 other kids at the same time. Suddenly, there is still only one physical bike in the world, but there are 10 kids who all have a piece of paper from me saying they own a bike. On the school's books, it looks like there are 10 bikes. This is exactly what happens with your money. For every $100 you put into a bank, the bank is only required to keep about $10. The other $90? They lend it out. But here is the crazy part. The $90 they lend out isn't subtracted from your account. You still see $100 on your phone app, but the person who borrowed the $90 also sees $90 on their app. You've just turned $100 into $190 out of thin air. This leads us to our second twist, and it's where the magic ledger becomes a global monster. When that second person takes their $90 loan and spends it at a toy store, the toy store owner takes that $90 and deposits it into their bank. Now that bank sees a $90 deposit. They follow the same rule. They keep $9 and lend out $81. That $81 gets it spent and deposited again, and the next bank lends out $72. This chain reaction continues until your original $100 has been used to create nearly $1,000 of digital money. In this system, debt isn't just a burden. Debt is the actual ink used to print money. If no one in the world ever took out another loan, if everyone paid off their houses and cars tomorrow, the money supply would literally dry up. There would be no cash left in the system. Our entire world is built on the idea that we can keep borrowing more make-believe points today to pay for the things we want right now. We aren't trading wealth anymore. We are trading promises. But if it's all just make-believe math, why can't we all just have infinite money? Why is there still poverty? This brings us to the third twist, and it's the one the banks never explain on their commercials. It's the interest trap. See, the bank can print the principal, that's the original amount of the loan. When they type 10,000 into the computer for your car loan, they've created that money, but they also tell you that you have to pay them back $11,000 because of interest. Here's the problem. The bank created the 10,000, but they didn't create the extra 1,000 for the interest. No one did. This means that in our global economy, there is always more debt than there is money. It's like a giant game of musical chairs. Every year, everyone is running around trying to grab enough money to pay back their loans, plus interest. But because the interest money was never printed, it's mathematically impossible for everyone to pay their debts. Someone has to go broke. Someone has to lose their house. The system is designed to be a constant race, where we are all fighting over a pile of money that isn't big enough to cover the promises we've made. This constant competition is what forces us to work harder, build faster, and grow the economy every single year, just to keep the lights on. Now, you might be wondering, if the banks are just making this up, why do I have to work 40 hours a week to earn it? That leads us to the fourth twist. The reason the magic ledger works is because of the illusion of scarcity. Even though the money is digital and infinite for the banks, it is physical and limited for you. You have to trade the most valuable thing you own, your time, to get those digital points. The bank is essentially trading something they can create in 2 seconds, digital money, for something you can never get back, your life. It is the greatest trade in human history, and the banks are the only ones allowed to play. But what happens when people stop believing in the magic? What happens when we realize the emperor has no clothes and the bank has no cash? This is the bank-run nightmare. In the 1930s, people realized the banks didn't actually have their money. They all rushed to the buildings at once, demanding their cash. But because of the bicycle bank rule, the banks only had the kickstands. They couldn't give everyone their bikes. The system collapsed. Today we have insurance like the FDIC to tell us our money is safe, but that insurance is also just more digital numbers on another ledger. If a big enough wave of fear hits the world, no amount of insurance can fix the fact that 97% of the money in existence doesn't physically exist. It is a ghost. This brings us to the fifth and most mind-bending twist. We often think of the government as being in charge of the money, but in reality, the government is just another customer. When the government wants to build a bridge or fight a war, they don't just print the money themselves. They go to the central bank and they borrow it, just like you borrow for a car. They give the bank a bond, which is just a fancy IOU, and the bank types numbers into the government's account. The government then has to pay that money back with interest. And how does the government get the money to pay the interest? They tax you. So, when you work a job to earn money, a piece of that money goes to the government to pay the interest on a loan for money that was created out of thin air by a bank that doesn't actually have any cash. You are working to pay for the interest on a ghost. This is why prices never seem to stop going up. As more and more people take out more and more loans, the magic ledger gets bigger and bigger. The more digital money there is, the less each individual dollar is worth. This is inflation. It's not just prices going up. It's the value of your time being diluted by the bank's printer. The final twist is that we are now so deep into this system that there is no way out. We can't go back to just using gold or trading chickens because the world is too big and too fast. We have built a civilization that runs on digital trust. We trust that when we swipe our card, the ledger will say, yes. We trust that the person we are paying will be able to use those same points to buy their own pizza or pay their own rent. The magic ledger is a miracle and a curse. It has allowed us to build skyscrapers, invent the internet, and explore space by borrowing from the future. But it has also made us slaves to a math equation that can never be solved. The next time you look at your bank app and see that balance, don't think of it as a pile of gold in a vault. Think of it as a scoreboard in a game that never ends. You're playing a game where the rules are written by people who own the printer, and the goal is to keep you running on the treadmill so the magic ledger can keep spinning. The money in your pocket isn't wealth. It's a receipt for the time you've already spent, and a promise for a future that has already been borrowed. And as long as we all keep swiping, the magic continues. But remember, magic is just an illusion that people agree to believe in. And in the world of finance, the moment we stop believing is the moment the ledger goes blank.